thank you for coming back to my channel to check out another one of my videos. Today I will be doing a review on the Chameleon pens. These are really fun new pens. They've only been on the market maybe a little over a year, maybe going on 2 years, but they're not an older product. So these are some pens that maybe some of the people in the community that likes to paint with alcohol ink have not gotten to play with yet, and so that's why I wanted to do a review specifically geared towards some of the groups that I'm in and some of the things that I actually do with my artwork. So, disclaimer before we get into the actual review, I actually bought these. They did not send these to me for free, so I will be giving my honest opinion on what I think, how I think the markers would be used in a good way, what I don't like about them, and I will let you know that this is the 22 deluxe set of the Chameleon pens. I actually bought mine at Hobby Lobby. The list price was $99.99. I paid around $60 for mine because I used a 40% off coupon. So keep that in mind. You can also find them around $79 on Amazon, and you can buy them direct from their website, and I will go ahead and put that link in the description because you can also buy replacement ink. These pens are able to be refilled and the nibs can be replaced. So when you first get the box, and I apologize for any glare that might come off, you will see that it's packaged really beautifully. I'm a big eye candy kind of girl, and the more colorful it is, the more likely it is to catch my eye. So I really like the way that they did their packaging, and it's super easy. Once you take the wrapping off, you just hit this little button down here and it helps you to pull the box out. So we'll set this aside. And then when you take the covering off here, the cover art, you'll see that they have this nice little box that says Chameleon color tones. And then they have an instruction booklet and another little flyer that's in several different languages that I don't know, so I can't read these, but we'll set that aside. And it says down here, scan the code to see videos of the pens in action. So if you have a smartphone, you can go ahead and scan this here, and it will take you right to where they have some videos that shows how really cool the pens can be once you have practice with them. And then on the inside of the instructions, it gives you, what you have actually in the box. So you have a detail pen, a colorless blender. Your pens are double-ended, so you'll have a brush tip and a nib tip, fine bullet tip nib. And then it gives you specific instructions here on how to achieve multiple color tones from one pen. So this is great. You want to read over this. I have played with these markers a little bit before I've started my tutorial so that I didn't look completely goofy, but I will have to say that I do need a lot more practice with these, and you will see why here in a few minutes. Okay, so let's get a little more into what you have here. So you actually have 20 of the colored pens. Beautiful colors, bright, vibrant colors. They're all just really pretty straight out of the pen. And then you have a colorless blender that they give you, which is really great, and a fine line detailer, which is awesome because this actually works with the ink. So it has a 0.4 millimeter end and a 0.6 millimeter end. Then, one of the super nice things that they do, I'll have to see if I can grab it out of here. I stuck it down in here so you wouldn't see it. This company goes ahead and gives you replacement nibs for your markers. have to apologize. I stuck them down in there pretty good. I didn't realize that I had done that. So this is a nice thing about the Chameleon pens. They are fully refillable. So on their website, they sell their ink. And you can refill your markers when they run dry. And they also have replacement nibs, but they've gone ahead and sent you quite a few here. So I think that's a nice gesture because a lot of the other marker companies do not do this. You have to buy these separate. Design-wise, another thing that's really cool is this box. So this box is set up to where if you flip it open like this, you now have a perfect marker stand. You can just pull your markers out and use them, put them right back in there, which is really great because, again, other brands like Copic and Prisma, they sell specific marker holders for their brand, and they cost quite a bit extra. So to have this come with it is really nice. Now, if you buy the pens in the smaller packs that they do have smaller packs of 5 pens. Then they don't come with that little design, but that would be a good way to get certain sets of tones that you might want. So that being said, the first thing that I would advise anybody to do is go ahead and make yourself a color swatch. And here you can see that I have 2 little squares on everything. Let's see if I can zoom in on that just a little bit. Okay, so 2 squares for every color, and that is because the good thing about these pens, or what their marketing genius is that you are supposed to be able to get several different tones from one pen, and you can see here that they go from light to the dark of the original color. And I'll show you how we do that in just a moment. So I've said some really good things about the pens, and now I'm going to say some not necessarily bad things, but some things that maybe necessarily I didn't care for quite so much while I was trying to do my artwork. So one of the things that I'm not real fond of is the size of the pens, but I understand why they are so big. So this is the size of a normal marker. This is the size of a Chameleon pen. This makes it very, very top heavy, I guess you would call it, when you're trying to do your art. The end flips back and forth. Now, if you're trying to use the blending technique, this chamber actually comes off of the back, and you can hold it in this hand and do your marking with this hand, and it goes back down to feeling a little bit more natural. So that part is just something that you really have to get used to, and it's really up to you what you like, what you want to do with your art. So let's talk about this blending chamber. To do my demonstrations, I'm going to work on Canson mixed media paper. It is the XL series, and that is the big one here that I have. So to get different tones with these pens, what you want to do is they have a mixing chamber on the end, and the mixing chamber has blending solution in it. And so I always prefer the brush tips. This is the brush tip. This is the nib end. I like to paint with the brush tips because it makes me feel more like I'm painting and less like I'm drawing. There's nothing wrong with drawing. I just really like the feel of being able to paint with my pens. In all of my pens, I actually prefer the brush tips, and the Prismas and the Copics. And my concept markers, I haven't actually found a brush tip yet, but if they ever come out with one, I will be converting to those. So I have my brush tip nib out here. And you want to take the blending chamber off, and then you want to put the blending chamber on top of the nib that you're going to want to use. So set it right on top, right here, and just for the video's sake, I'm going to go ahead and turn it sideways so you can see what's going on. So the 2 nibs are touching, okay? And what this is doing is it's transferring the blending ink to the nib, or the blending solution, I apologize, the blending solution to the nib, and it's making this color lighter. You take that off, and then you want to go ahead and hold it straight up. If you hold it straight up, you get better effect. And you want to go back and forth and back and forth. Okay. And you can see how it went from one shade straight into the others. And it did it pretty easily. Now the kind of paper that you use and the strokes that you use will decide whether or not you have these striations here in your work. I don't find it particularly bothersome because this is probably not what I'm going to use the pens for. And the reason being is that I paint very fast. And because I paint very fast, the having to not know when the color is going to change back to the darker color is a little inconvenient. And then also having to stop every time I want the lighter color and do this for 5 to 10 seconds. It doesn't seem like a long time, but it really does take a long time out of your ability to create, because it is a process that just interrupts the workflow. Sorry, apparently I'm having a hard time talking today. It's early here, so I haven't woken up, and I have not had my coffee yet, so. But as you can see, and you can get even lighter with it, so the longer you hold the mixing chamber on your nib, the lighter your color is going to be. And the instruction booklet is really great because it gives you kind of like a time guideline. When you first get your markers and you start to use them, your brush tip nibs will be a little stiff, but as time goes and you use them more, they do spray out a little bit and it feels a little more like a regular brush. So these are actually, I mean, they're pretty fun. I would say that what I would probably use them for is just, unless I have very small detail work where I want to have the toned colors, I'll probably, in my particular work, just use the regular colors. I mean, they're very vibrant, they're beautiful. One thing I would recommend again is to make sure that you do the color swatch, because I'm going to say that most of the colors were what I would consider accurate. However, I was going along last night making this little color swatch and everything was going along and looking pretty good. But when I got to warm sunset, it looks a little bit better today, so maybe it had time to do some magic overnight, I'm not sure, but this actually looked like a dark brown and it didn't look anything like a warm sunset. So it's a good idea to make a color swatch on any supply that you're using, whether it's colored pencils, watercolors, different brands of markers, and do it on different papers. If you use different papers, do a color swatch on different papers, and that will let you know how your pens, your pencils, your paints are going to react with different substrates. Alright, so let's do a couple of things here with these markers. I want to show you on an actual, half of a drawing, how maybe you could use these to do something fun with the mixing chamber capabilities that they have. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and use their detail pen because this is what came with the box, and this is, you should probably try to use what they have with it. Now, micron pens work well too. I tested those with them, and I love my micron pens. So, because this is a little bit fatter than the pens that I normally use, it did take me a little bit to get used to being able to handle it and do a drawing the way that I normally would like. And I'm going to go ahead and use the 0.6mm because it's a little bit bigger and I think that it'll show up a little bit better on camera. I apologize for the zooming in and out, but I really want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to try to do a little hummingbird. Now this is a rough sketch. If I were doing this to sell professionally, I would make sure that I really had it down. And I like to do my hummingbirds where they're looking up a little bit, usually in flight. Like I said, this is a rough sketch, so he's not going to be, you know, exactly right, but and you have to be careful. You see there that I smeared it just a tiny bit here. My hummingbirds are not always realistic looking. I don't always want that in my artwork. My artwork is more, you know, a bright and eye-catching. I like to have a little bit of abstract and a little bit of realism together, and I really just want to make sure that it catches the viewer's eyes. So that is why I paint in really bright colors, and alcohol ink it really just gives itself to doing those bright colors. I used to only, believe it or not, paint in black and white or do graphite sketches, and that's just something that you know, once I was introduced to the alcohol inks, I was like, oh, I can do this, and look at all these colors, and I didn't understand how color worked before. So now that I understand it more, I really do love it. And most of my things now are in color. Although I do still do some therapy art, stress relaxation in the black and white, where I'm just doing the doodles or Zentangle inspired art. I usually only do black and white. But that's another thing. If you're into the adult coloring books and the Zentangle-like art, I would highly recommend these markers because you can get some really pretty effects and details and kind of make it look a little 3D when you're doing your coloring book. So if you're a hobbyist that really likes the coloring books for stress relief and just, you know, something to do, then I would recommend these markers. If you are a professional illustrator and you have a time crunch and you need to get things done, I would not recommend these markers for that purpose. Just because you have a certain amount of time that you have to get things done, you're under a deadline, and you're not going to have time to sit there and take, you know, the end of the chamber off and then put it back on and mix the color and then wait and see and hope that it doesn't actually mess up what you're working on so that you can get your work done and get paid on time. So if you're a professional illustrator, I don't recommend these for professional pieces, but I do recommend them for somebody who just wants to have a little fun. And so that's where I'm being honest. There are time-consuming things to use. So I like to do my hummingbirds, a lot of times they're purple. And what I want is I want his throat and down to here to be a little bit lighter than the top of his head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mix a lighter color and turn it sideways so you can see here. The tips are touching. And this is the deep violet color, and I like that they have the name and the numbers here, or the letters, so V04, deep violet. And I'm just kind of guesstimating on this. On some of the tips you can see the blender working, and so you know that it has worked. See, you can see this light color here, and it's already starting to go into the dark, so I want to stop right there. I don't want the dark color in there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back on here. Try to do it a little bit longer. I apologize for the wiggly screen there. I think my camera is moving a little bit because I tried to adjust the light. If it's too terrible, I won't post the video, but if it's okay, then we'll move along and try to do it better next time. So here's the light going on for the belly. Okay. And the dark color starting to come back again. That's what I don't like about the pens. You don't really have enough time to cover a bigger area when you're working with the mixing chamber. If you are doing very small areas, petals of flowers, leaves, things that can be done in sections, it's a little bit better. So, let's see. And then also, if you're doing like this, it's hard to match up the color. You know, if you have to stop and go back to the mixing chamber, it's very hard to match up the color of what you just had. But, okay, so now I want to go ahead and do the darker color. It's nice to have it be able to flow from lighter of the same color into the dark. So I do like that part, but it just, I think with time and practice, I would get better at judging it, but I'm not sure how much time I have. Like, how much time do I have to play with these before having to get ready for shows and doing things that clients might want? And, you know, clients are great. I love my commissions. I love working with people, but when you're paying for a product, you expect to have that product within a certain time frame. And if I give you a time frame, I expect to be able to deliver on that. I just don't know how much time I would actually have to experiment and play. Now, that being said, if you really want to learn how to use something, you make time for it. You just have to put it in your regular day, but I'm not sure that I would use this for my business. Maybe just for when I want to have a little bit of fun. So I want another lighter area around the eye, because the eyeball itself is actually going to be black. And this is not going to be a finished painting. I'm just doing this to show you some of the ways that it would blend. So while it's still super light, I'm kind of just marking out the area that I want the lighter purple to be in. There we go. I do get a little quiet when I'm doing my work, trying to concentrate. Okay, so I really do like the actual effect on the eye. So this is where I say practice. You know, practice is going to determine how well you can use the markers. I've only had these for a week, so I'm probably not the best at it yet. So, you know, honestly, I don't know that I would use these in every day, but I am glad that I bought them because I think that they're beautiful colors. And I am a color junkie. Go ahead and put that back, and I'm going to take the liner again and just go in and darken up the eye here. I have left some highlight spots just to see if that can catch a little bit of the light with the little bird. Okay, so the liner pen works really good. I like the feel of it on the paper. That's another thing for me. If I don't like the way a marker feels actually gliding along the paper, I will never use them again. These actually feel fine. I had no problems with that at all. Okay, so that's how they work. Let's see if we can try another. Let's do a little bit of pink on a wing. Okay. So because I'm not selling this, I'm not doing anything. This is what it looks like before you put anything on the blending chamber. Just comes straight out in a really pretty color. Okay. Go up a little bit here. Alright. So let's say I want darker on the tips of the wings. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in first. Anywhere that I want a little bit of a darker color, I'll go ahead and put that in. And I'll bring it in a little throughout the wing. Then I have the blending chamber. Go ahead and put that right on there. Alright, now I'm going to go over the whole thing with this blending ink. And there are some lighter spots. It's probably hard to see it on the actual video. But they are a little bit lighter. And then if you want some other colors in there, there's nothing stopping you from going to one of the other markers and going ahead and doing some coloring with them to go with. So if you wanted to put some purple in there, go ahead. They work very well together. There's really not a lot of streaking or any of that, which is an issue that sometimes artists have when they're using pens. So I like these for that reason. Let's see, what else can we do? Okay, so I am an alcohol ink artist. I paint straight out of the bottle with alcohol ink. I use various alcohol ink based markers and pens, and I paint on different substrates. So let's look at maybe something else, and you'll see I've kind of done a little bit of sketching and doodling here to see what I could do with these before I actually started the video. So if you've seen my other videos, you know that I like to paint on UPO paper for my ink, and let's see how these work and react with a little bit of UPO paper underneath it. So this is a plastic paper, it's recycled. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint straight with the color and not do the mixing chambers. So one of the things that I do that I haven't gone over in my videos yet is if I want a little more realism and detail, I'll go ahead and mark out spaces for, say I wanted some water in my video. So this is where maybe I would put some water. So go ahead and color that in maybe a little bit there, right? So I'm not really trying to be very realistic or detailed right here. What I'm going to do is use blending solution and go ahead and spread this out. But I wanted to also show my ink painters how you can reactivate this with the blending solution and go ahead and use these colors in your painting, because the colors are really, really pretty. So this will actually be enough here on the water for me to get a nice color when I use the blending solution. Okay. Then what if I wanted a tree? Alright, let's do a tree. Here's a tree. Now this is not something that I'm going to sell. It's just to show you what we can actually do with these pens. What if I wanted a tree over here? We'll do another tree. Here we go. So somebody asked me one time, why do I paint trees so much? And my answer was because I can't really mess them up. Trees are all organic, and they just do whatever they want to do. So however you choose to paint a tree, whether you have a whimsical style or a realistic style, usually people will look at that and they will know, oh, it's a tree. There's not a whole lot of guessing involved, and there's really not a right and wrong way to paint trees. So when I have no creativity flowing, when I don't know what to paint, I will always revert back to trees and landscapes, because I find it a little bit easier to do and something that I enjoy and don't really have to think a lot about. So let me go ahead and get that alcohol blending solution, and I'll show you what this can do. Okay, so I am back and I have my blending solution. So this is the brand of blending solution that I use the most when I'm not actually using 91% isopropyl alcohol. This is the Tim Holtz Adirondack blending solution. Sun's coming up here and kind of getting a little bit of glare in there, but I think I can finish the video real quick before it gets too bad. And this is, I call it a dauber, some people call it a stamper. Tim Holtz also makes this. And like I said, I'm not endorsed by any company. This is just the brand that I found that I liked. This is what I started out using years ago, and they haven't ever failed me, so I haven't found a reason to switch brands yet. And this is a white felt square or rectangle that you just stick on the stamper. It's got Velcro here. So to blend this and make it actually look like I put ink out of a bottle or I'm painting with it, I just go ahead and pour the blending solution straight onto here. I don't put any other colors on it. And you'll see, because these markers are based in alcohol, that they will reactivate if you put blending solution or alcohol on top of them. I like to have a little bit of texture showing in almost everything I do, so sometimes I will just take a little felt rectangle and I will put it on the end of my finger to keep the square lines from the stamper from coming out. And with water particularly, I like the appearance of bubbles or waves. You can see that that really turned out really lovely. So if you like that color in the pen, you don't have a color that matches that in the bottles that you might use, that would be really a fun thing to do. That's something that I'm actually going to do a video on, you know, oh no, what if I run out of ink in my bottles, but I have pens and I want a certain look. We'll go over how to get some of those looks. And then, so one thing that you can do here that they sent this colorless blender with is anytime you put colorless blender on top of your ink, you're going to lift up some of that ink. So if you want highlights, lines, anything like that, you can actually use this. So say I wanted to have the perception of waves. I could actually go in here with this and get my waves. This just lifts straight up. Oh, and then say, okay, so now I have my waves here. What if I want leaves? You can actually take this, and one of the ways you can clean off your blender is to dab it up here and get a few leaves going on. And that'll help clear off some of that. And then you can also just take it onto regular paper and scrub it, and the ink will come off. It'll be a little bit stained, as you can see here on the tip, but the stain won't actually affect anything as long as the blending solution is running clear. If you can get it into clear, then that color, even though it's stained, won't come off into any new artwork. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at how the pens react on tile. A lot of ink painters paint on tile, and this is a very, very popular thing to do with the alcoholic ink. So because we have the ink-based markers, let's see what happens. Let's do, maybe I just want to do a field of poppies. So this week was Veterans Day was yesterday, and Remembrance Day was yesterday. So let's go ahead and do maybe just some green here for the stems. And the grass. Now I will go ahead and use the mixing chamber on this one. The reason for that is maybe I want some different shades of the blades there. Maybe I want to give it a little bit of texture and depth. When you see people who are painting with the ink and they have a lot of details, they're using some sort of pen. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and learn how to use the pens for details. When you first start out with inks, you're really excited to do the abstracts and to see all of the colors, but as you go along, most people want to start getting a little more detailed and learn how to control. I really like the way that's turning out. And then, so this is just going to be a basic little poppies. These are compatible with the inks that I use out of the bottle, so they're compatible with the Adirondack Tim Holtz inks. They're compatible with Spectrum Noir inks that you can get in the bottle. They are compatible with Pinata inks. Any ink that is based in alcohol, you're going to be able to use these. So that's a plus in their favor as well. And we'll take some Summer Sun, and we'll go, well, not Summer Sun, not yet. Let's do Seville orange. Block out some middles here. I think I'm getting the hang of using these a little bit more now that I'm on familiar papers and tiles with them. So I would go ahead and give these pens, let's say a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. The only reason that they don't get a 10 is because although this is a really neat concept and it's something that I will use a little bit, I probably will not use this as much as I thought I would when I was watching the videos. I just tend to paint faster than these markers allow when you're using this feature. However, I will use the markers straight the way that they are before using the mixing chamber because they have very bright, vibrant colors, and I am actually planning on getting the whole set. So I would say 7 out of 10. And you know, just if you don't want to buy the big set, if you don't have enough money to do that, go ahead and buy one of the little sets. They sell them in 5-packs, and you can get colors that work very well together in those packs, and you can test it and see. I think I have not seen these at Michael's, that's why I haven't said anything about them, but I know that my local Hobby Lobby is carrying these, and they also carry the 5-packs, and you can use your 40% off coupon. So the price that they had them at was $26.99 when I went in for the smaller ones. And if you use that 40% off coupon, you're going to get quite a bit of a discount. And then it becomes not as expensive to try something new. And if you like it, then you can go ahead and invest in the larger set. If you just want to jump right in, the larger set is a better value for what you are getting, and especially if you're able to find them on sale online, or you can use one of those coupons. So we'll go ahead and finish up the poppies here. And just do a little lightening up here in the center because the orange blended in quite a bit more than I thought it would. And then clean off the tip there. And there you have it. So I hope that you liked this review and that you like my channel. And if you do, and if you're interested in more art supplies and more ways to use common supplies to do maybe some uncommon things with them, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to my channel, and your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.